Hi there, everybody. We're going to continue the supernoetics tradition of bringing you life and living skills as well as just philosophy stuff in the form of an amazing book that's written by my friend Malcolm, who's standing here right beside me. Now, this is Malcolm lives in Colorado, so it's not very often we're in the same room. This is a good moment to actually have this discussion on camera. And I want to tell you about his marvelous little book. I started reading it yesterday afternoon. That was my first access to it. It was really readable. I read the first 2 or 3 chapters straight off. It's called 10, 20, 70. And as I understand it, Malcolm, that's 10% for you, 20% for debts or your future if you're not in debt, and then 70%. You've got to live on that. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct, yes.
Okay, well, that's going to need a bit of handy, fancy financial management. For most people, they're not anywhere near close being able to live on 70% of their income. So what have you got to tell them?
Well, the reason I wrote this book in the first place was I have been in this situation that many people are in before. At the same time, I was in this situation, and I decided to do my own research and do my reading and come up with a formula for myself that would actually help me solve my debt and financial, I suppose, illiteracy. Because that's basically, you become more financially literate by learning about the skills you need to manage money. And so after a couple of relationships that I had failed completely, I realized to myself that the majority of the problem that I had was due to the fact that I did not manage money correctly. And yes, this book came out of that, and I didn't just write it as a load of words, I wrote it as an actual blueprint. So there are exercises in there that if you follow them and you actually do them, they will produce a great result for you and should enable you, if you do the work, to get out of a financial situation into a poor financial situation into a much better one.
It's an important point you made there, which, I mean, it puts pressure on your relationships, doesn't it? If you're skint and you don't know where the next meal is coming from, everybody's grumpy and stressed and feeling short and feeling the lack, it's not happy. And there's a very old saying, in fact, that when poverty comes in the door, love flies out of the window, which I think sums it up very well, and that's exactly what you were describing.
Yes.
Yeah? Now, to get yourself on a sound financial foot, do you have to be a wizard like Warren Buffett or Richard Branson or these guys?
No, I mean, I had a normal income line like many people. I mean, I've applied this in my own business when I was working for myself. I've applied this when I've been working for other people. You don't have to have a large amount of income. Almost anybody could do this, given the fact that they're not a complete pauper. And in fact, if you follow the principles in the book, it should enable you to get yourself out of that situation and to be much more financially aware and therefore do the things necessary to improve your income and improve your financial standing.
Would I be right, Malcolm, in saying if you learn, let's call it financial literacy, you learn the skills of managing your money, that actually that will lead you on to prosperity anyway, kind of wealth. You know, you get more money, in other words, once you know what you're doing. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's exactly what happened to me. I was able to completely revamp my finances and put myself in a much better position. And not only that, it enabled me to have a better self-worth, a better opinion of myself. I was able to value myself and my services better. When I worked for myself, for instance, I was able to demand more of my customers because I knew what the service I was providing was much more valuable than I thought it was. Once I knew the principles of finance, it was easy to be able to value myself, which of course led to better financial situation.
Right, and you brought up that issue of self-worth, and I think that's important here. There's an abiding emotion in this situation. When you're skint or broke or scuppered, whatever the slang words are, I think the main emotion is shame. You know, you feel humiliated and ashamed. You know, how come you haven't got 2 pennies to rub together when everybody around you seems to have enough money? It's very discomforting emotionally, isn't it? Did you find that when you were down on your uppers?
Yeah, I found that to be increasingly the case. The worse the financial situation got, I felt worse myself. It was very emotionally stressing, and it really put a strain on things, not only just my own relationships, but I felt shameful that really, I had learned to do a lot of skills in my life, but this was one skill I didn't have, and it was almost shameful to admit to people that well, you know, I'm not doing that well financially. You know, even though I'm technically very competent, I wasn't doing well financially.
There's one catch, folks. Great little book. There's one catch. You've got to do it. You've got to do something. Reading about financial literacy doesn't cut it. You've got to do things. But the nice thing about this book, and look, it's not a thick book, it's not going to take you long to work through and understand, is that it gives you exercises in every chapter, things you do, and things that are going to come out right for you in the end. It's not going to happen overnight, is it? But we can talk in terms of weeks or months, not, 5 years to financial solvency or anything like that. Results will start coming in quite quickly, yes? And once you start getting control in things, then it starts to accelerate. That's what I find in life.
Yeah, that was exactly what I found. It accelerated. In fact, once I got to the position of really understanding why I was in a debt situation and where that came from and why my income wasn't meeting my requirements, it was relatively easy to get to a position of actually being debt-free. And that is a wonderful feeling when you actually been in a situation of not knowing how you were going to pay a bill, to be in a position where you go, oh my God, there are no debts anymore. Isn't that an amazing feeling?
Awesome. Yes, now you might wonder why am I getting involved, or why am I interested as an MD, I'm not a wealthy MD, I'm not one of these California super surgeons, cosmetic surgeons that earn $1 million a week. But I am interested because, in fact, I believe that finance and financial stress is the number one stress that people face, even more so than relationships. We know relationships stress us to hell, but if there's not enough money, nothing is ever going to work well for you in life if there's not enough money. It's not the same that you need to be rich, but you need to be solvent. Solvency is the key to mental health, basically, and I can say that, from the heart. I'm talking mental health and solvency, they go hand in hand. Anyway, I persuaded Malcolm to offer his teachings and his understandings as a course. We're going to put together a supernoetics course. I want you to look out for that. We can run this as a weekend intensive, yes? How would that work?
We would have people come and learn the principles in the book, probably do some exercises, twin off, and I like to start this with maybe exercises that aren't yourself, like just distance yourself from your current situation, but as we would progress with the weekend, we would bring in real life into this, so people are working with their real situation.
So you pretend. I have this friend who can't pay his bills. What do you think he should?
Yeah, exactly.
Wasn't that to do with condoms? I have this friend who wants something for the weekend when you're embarrassed. The other way, of course, don't worry if you live in Malaysia or Timbuktu or New Zealand or somewhere. We can run an online version of this too with, maybe weekly classes and so on. We're not going to charge a lot of money for this because obviously the guys that need it the most are broke. So we just want it to make sense and be fair on both sides, but you'll find this is a very modest investment to get involved in this, and you'll get your money back 10 or 100 times over if you do what Malcolm teaches you. Thanks very much for sharing this, Malcolm. That's great. And look out for the course.